Good evening, everyone, and welcome to hashtag Jeopardy Live panel presented by the JeopardyFan.com. This is episode number 30. Once again, I am Andy Saunders, and I will be moderating the discussion this evening. We have a nice panel for us tonight. We have got the most recent five-time champion, Kristen Sauceville. Congratulations. Congratulations, Kristen.
Thank
Well done. Well done. We also have another five-time champion on our panel tonight. Once again, Vaughn Winchell. We also have somebody who was on the day after Vaughn the episode after Vaughn lost, returning once again, Dara Gocheski. And finally, David Kendall from JArchive and jboard.tv. Thank you all for joining us. As I started out with last week, we had the This Week in Jeopardy. By the way, I do want to point out that if anyone listening or tuning in at this point wants to tweet anything, any comments or questions at the panel, you can use the hashtag Jeopardy Live panel. And hopefully, I'm pretty sure my Twitter client will tell me that there's a tweet, and so I will generally read it out unless it's hugely inappropriate, in which I won't. So I think there's probably one thing I wouldn't say. So it might happen, but moving on to This Week in Jeopardy. Few things happened over this past week. In Jeopardy history. I'm going to start at the farthest away, a five-time champion in 1991. Tom Halpert began his run towards 5 wins and over $63,000 on this day back in 1991. In 92, Robert Slavin, he was in Yellowknife, Northwest Territories at that point when he was originally on. He is now no longer in the Northwest Territories, but he began his run towards 5 wins and $53,000 on March 24th of 1992. Round 1, 10 years ago, continued in the Ultimate Tournament of Champions. Some interesting stuff happened next week in Jeopardy history in the Ultimate Tournament. Season 15 of Jeopardy had a celebrity week. Bob Costas won $20,000 against Keith Olbermann and Robin Roberts in a sportscaster's Celebrity Jeopardy. In 2009, Dan Pawson won his Tournament of Champions. And Megan Barnes on season 27 as the middle part of completing the trifecta of being on Millionaire, Wheel of Fortune, and Jeopardy. She won on Jeopardy season 27. I'm going to bring this up because it's going to be happening before our next panel. But the founder of the JeopardyFan.com, Jeannie Kenkel, her Jeopardiversary is 3 years ago this week. An episode and her tweet, or not her tweet, but her post following, was actually the inspiration for Arthur Chu to take his Jeopardy appearance seriously, because Arthur realized just how fleeting the opportunity was. So you can actually go back to his Q&A and take a look at that if you'd like. But so yes, that's This Week in Jeopardy history. The big news of the last 7 days, we have a five-time champion again. Congratulations to Kristen. My first question for you actually has to do with something which I think was completely cut. Monday's interview.
Oh my gosh.
All Alex did was say, "Here, have your $800. Are you happy? Yes. On with the game."
Sadly,
what did you guys actually talk about?
Sadly, that was not cut. That was exactly how it played out. I think because the other players' stories took a lot of time, and I was as shocked as anyone.
That was my guess. I've seen player interviews go over, and they just go, "Okay, champ, we've talked to you before. Let's move on."
Yeah, and it was kind of frustrating because I was back. I had a brand new interview card. I had stuff on there that I wanted to talk about. I didn't know I was going to get to play again, so I was kind of annoyed by that.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in that interview segment that a person sometimes wishes he or she could control.
Hmm.
Mhm.
I remember
Yes. Yeah, go ahead.
thinking more than once, thinking, really? That's what you chose?
Oh, so here's a story that was on my first card that didn't get read. They were really fascinated by the fact that I still have the teddy bear that I got for my first Christmas, and that Matthews, my older son's, he named his after mine, and they were really fascinated by the story. And I'm thinking, like, I don't want to talk about it. Couldn't you find anything better? And so they didn't do it on the first week. They did the other two that I liked, and then they had Justin in the audience. And then when they said they were going to make the new card for next week. I was like, you don't have to put that teddy bear story on there. You can find other stuff. I want to talk about my podcast. I want to talk about this. I want to talk about that. So.
Okay. How worried were you about Tuesday's show going into Final Jeopardy?
I was really worried because I'm not that great at math, and so I not only had to worry about my wager, I had to worry about the numbers category. So yeah, I was pretty worried, but I had studied Keith's website, Final Wager. I had studied that, and I did the math over and over again. I even wrote down the wager and then had them delete it for me. I redid the math, and I wrote down the exact same wager again. Well, I'm sorry I wasted your
I'm
time.
sure they loved you for it.
Yeah. But yeah, and then I'm standing there, not that it would have made a difference as long as he made the rational wager and got it wrong. It didn't really matter whether or not I got it right or wrong. But when I realized with about 5 seconds to go that I had the wrong answer, I'm like frantically scribbling it out, and they tell you that your pen will turn off at 30 seconds. Like, this is something that you have no control over when your pen shuts down. And so I'm scribbling like as fast as I can to get the right answer on there. And it made me glad I hadn't risked all my money, because I probably would have like passed out. Realized I had 5 seconds to change my answer.
No, it is only two digits too. If you had to write down what is Czechoslovakia in that
Yeah,
5
right.
seconds.
Right. So yeah, that was genuine shock when he got it wrong. I really thought that if I got it right, everybody else was going to get it right, because that's not a strong category for me. So that was real shock that he got it wrong and that I was going to get to play again.
Did
Well,
Colin express surprise at anything afterwards? Like, for example, if being that I guess he thought that one was a prime number. Did he say anything about that?
He did not say anything about his answer. I'll leave it at that.
Ooh, there's room for more there. You're not saying something, Kristen. Keep going. Let's work this.
Yes.
Come on.
He made a comment. I don't think it's necessary for everybody to hear it.
Well,
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you were clutch. You did a great job.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, and I will say that if I had been in Colin's situation, I might well have said something that I wouldn't care to have repeated widely, too.
That's true.
Yeah, I think I'm on Vaughn's side on that one.
Yeah.
I probably would have done the same, said similar things. How weird was it though? I mean, you were in the audience for a week, Kristen.
Yeah.
You taped a full week. Then you were there for a second week and 3 more, and then you left. How weird was it watching on Thursday, not knowing how it was going to go?
It was so strange because I had no idea. I had reached out to the rest of the people in the taping group, and a lot of us are Facebook friends, but nobody had really kind of let slip how the rest of the games had gone.
Ah.
So yeah, I was really curious to see how Andrea did. But but I really liked the other people who played the rest of the week. Gina and Alex and Leslie, and they were all a lot of fun. So yeah, it was nice to see them together on Friday.
I do want to say we have reached out to Alex, and he was just unable to attend this week's panel. We're hoping he'll be able to come out to a panel in the near future. Let's see. About Andrea's interview on Wednesday, this is kind of a discussion for the whole panel, and if anyone listening in wants to tweet at us with their own thoughts on this at #JeopardyLivePanel, you are welcome to. How far do we think Watson is from taking over a job like Andrea's?
Well, as somebody who has a husband who's a doctor, I don't know. I think voice to voice recognition technology would have to get a lot better. There are a lot of really long, convoluted medical words that I think it will take some time for machines to be able to transcribe those reliably, especially when you're talking about, medical procedures or medications or dosages or things like that.
But I think also, on the other hand, keep in mind, 10, 15 years ago, we couldn't have even pondered a Watson, never mind playing Jeopardy, but doing what Watson does for medical workers just 10, 15 years ago. We couldn't have even thought of that. Now he's working in the medical field now, and of course 10, 15 years ago is forever ago technology-wise, so who knows what would happen even by the end of this calendar year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think even then it might still be a while before people trust it fully, though.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I think Watson's still got some Torontos in him.
Yes, that is something to worry about. I don't know if any of you guys actually read the book that the Watson team put out. I think it was called Final Jeopardy. But the Watson team put out a book after the challenge, and I personally found it a fascinating read. And they mentioned about there was a correlation between the massive toothaches that one of the Watson developers was having and a severe bout of depression. And apparently that was one of the things that they were hoping to get Watson to be used on a little bit more post Jeopardy. So
they originally had in mind a medical career for him, I'm guessing.
Yes.
Not just a Jeopardy player.
Yes. Now moving on to yes, Stephen Baker, Final Jeopardy, Man versus Machine, and the Quest to Know Everything. That's the title of that book. We had an interesting situation on Thursday's game when Gina had what Keith Williams likes to call the penultimate wager. And I made sure I personally tuned into Keith's video of that episode to see how he'd react. I received text messages from people myself saying, "You're not going to like this." But Gina had 13,200, Brandon 13,000, Andrea 11,400, once again for the full panel. For anyone tuning in, Keith mentioned that there's obviously a big wager you could make trying to go for a lock game, or a small wager trying to hold on to the lead for Final Jeopardy. Obviously, you're trying to determine whether you think you'd rather answer the clue in front of you or a random Final Jeopardy. At what point do you think you might have considered going big? Category, clue level?
It absolutely would depend on category and clue level for me in that situation. A lot of times, like when, I found a daily double, if I was in the lead and I didn't like it, I would make a wager to preserve my lead, if nothing else. So, if you gave me a category I really liked, then I might have thought about going really big, but most of the time, no. I would have tried to preserve the lead with such little time left.
That seems to be the strategy as well. From what I noticed from his games, he seemed to know instinctively based on the category. Oh, I'm definitely going $5, or I'm definitely going all in, and that was definitely his modus operandi, as it was.
You were going to say something, Dara?
I was actually going to ask Kristen a question because I thought of you during the episode where you got the daily double with bar soap, and I said, so at this point we've probably got a couple of bar soaps left to generate as a possible answer. And so I was therefore very shocked when you wagered $800. So I was wondering, did you have an aversion to that category? What were you thinking in that moment when you decided to make that smaller wager to kind of preserve your lead? Do you remember?
I don't remember specifically. I know that when the category came up, it's not like I had been, instantly running a list of soaps through my head. It kind of happened too fast for that. I think by the end, let's face it, I did not have a great track record with daily doubles, and I think I was feeling really kind of gun shy on them by the end. And
Yeah.
it was like, I think in the last game, and by then, I was just like, oh, great. I felt like when I was watching it, like when the daily double came up, I was just kind of making a face like, oh, I have to deal with it. Great. I think that's why I kind of was trending small toward the end.
It makes perfect sense.
A lot of them.
Yeah, I think if I'd had that situation that Gina had, I think I would have probably bet small, but that would have been mostly a lack of situational awareness.
Mm-hmm.
The category, which was something like the 16th century or something.
Yes, it was, and it was at the bottom. It was a $2,000 daily double as well.
Yeah, especially the
Right.
bottom. No, not betting big on those.
It's not a bad category for me though, but by the time I realized I probably would rather have played that clue for the game than play a clue in a category I couldn't tell you for the game, I probably would have missed my chance to wager. I mean, I bungled a wager in one of the games I did play where I needed to bet big and I didn't bet quite big enough just because I was overstimulated, and it's easier from the fourth podium.
It always is.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And it's also easier with, when you're Keith Williams and have looked at this 100 times.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
easy.
Whereas most contestants haven't looked at this 100 times, and
Yeah, well, I think if I do get to go back, I will bring my TiVo remote so that I can pause the game.
they might actually let you get away with that in the Tournament of Champions too. So.
If not there, if I ever could make Celebrity Jeopardy, then anything goes.
Yeah.
Nice.
Or if you ever get to play Watson, pause him.
Yeah.
Surreptitiously lean over and flip.
Unplug him. Yeah.
Oh, weird. Watson's not responding. That's so strange.
Right.
Not check that out.
Oh, I spilled soda on Watson.
Those little bottles of water they bring you during the commercial breaks. Oh, sorry, my hands were shaking too much.
Oh.
Look, well, we have
That's
a visitor. Introduce yourselves.
hey.
Hi.
Hi.
All right. Go downstairs.
Bye.
Bye.
Hi, now you're famous.
I did not even hear him come in the room. All right.
He's a Jeopardy player.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess if he wants to be, he probably at least gets an audition.
I have millions of homework.
Moving on to Thursday's final, of course, literary anagrams. Vivian Darkbloom, a minor character in a 1955 novel by this foreign-born author, is an anagram of his name. Do we know if the judges would have accepted just Nabokov instead of Vladimir Nabokov?
I think I saw somebody say on Twitter that this was asked at the time and that they would have accepted just Nabokov.
Okay.
But that's as far as I know.
Yeah, how who were they asking? How authoritative is this Twitter person?
I'm not sure. I want to say it was one of the people who was in the audience at that point, but I don't remember.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It might have been Alex, actually. I'll check with him. But I don't know. I saw that question come up on TV, and I was thinking, yeah, eating candy, watching TV in my room. That was a good place to be.
Yeah, having that many letters to mix around. By the way, Andy, did you get it? I know you're a big Scrabble player.
I got it instantly.
Yeah.
Nice.
So did I.
Yeah.
It might have been I'll be honest, the context helped a lot with trying to get it getting it very quickly. If I'd been given just Vivian Darkbloom, might have taken a little bit longer, but knowing, being given the context, foreign-born author, 1955 novel.
Yeah.
Of course, foreign-born is a key clue because, of course, that implies he moved to America, which, of course, Nabokov did. And so, the context helped a lot in terms of picking
Yeah,
up.
and the mid-20th century. That helped a
Yeah.
lot.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, all this I didn't either know or was off on, so yeah, I didn't get it. But I figured your Scrabble, your love of Scrabble might have helped you on that too.
Well,
And
it certainly helped to at least go back and check. Yes, there's enough V's. There's a K here, and so what have you been up to, or at least I should probably ask more, Kristen. What plans do you have again for the full or for the winnings? Are you actually going to fill in the that koi pond?
I'm starting to have second thoughts, in all honesty.
but you promised on national television. You're bound to it now.
I know, but as far as I know, very few people have actually done the things they said they were gonna do with the money.
No surprise.
Stuff always ends up popping up. I'm starting to think that maybe, my backyard's gonna be there for a while, I hope. And I was thinking about maybe doing some travel instead. So but I've got a few months before the check comes, so I've got some time to think about it.
What did Justin do with his winnings?
Well, he actually did not buy the pots and pans that he said on national TV he was going to buy. A lot of the money went to Sweden by way of IKEA. We were buying a house right around then, and we needed furniture. And if it hadn't been for Jeopardy winnings, the house would have been pretty empty for a while. So a lot of it went to IKEA.
Okay, so let's see. Dara, you haven't been on in a while, and I know you're a big craft beer fan, and I suspect that there might be a craft beer fan or two who's tuning into the panel tonight. Have you had any good beers or any good craft brews lately?
You know what? The thing that I think it got bogarted, but I was drinking before this started. Oscar Blues, which is it's a Colorado brewery, but they also brew in North Carolina. It's being handed back to me, so I can show it off in the proper glass as well. This is what you would call more of a session beer for an IPA. It's really crisp and beautiful. Oh wait, the can as well. Thank you, dear. There you go. It's called Pinner, which is it is a term used to describe something in the marijuana paraphernalia field, because of course I'm broadcasting from Denver, Colorado. So that would be my newest favorite beer, because it's incredibly refreshing. And here in Denver, we're starting to get weather in the 70s. So it's starting to be that time of year. And next weekend, I'm actually going to be judging at a homebrew competition. So very, very exciting.
Did you get this judging gig as a result of the Jeopardy exposure, or?
No, it was a simple email saying I want to judge. I don't think many doors have opened for me yet, but I would love to be a beer consultant for some company that would have me.
Hint, hint, hint.
I know this past weekend I enjoyed Bo's Brewery, the Lug Tread lagered ale. I don't have the bottles because I left them at my friend's house, but no, I quite enjoyed that as well myself this weekend, and it's an Ontario craft brewer.
Excellent.
Yes. Ontario has a lot of good craft breweries, so I like to try to mix things up as best I can. Vaughn, Kristen, David, have you guys had any good craft brews lately?
Not really. I'm more of a wine drinker.
And I'm not much of a drinker at all. I've had the odd beer or so, but not really a connoisseur of that. But Manitoba is home to a lot of local brews and micro brews. Red River Ale comes immediately to mind, and my friends have had that. So, but yeah, I'm not really much of a drinker. Of course, then neither was Ken Jennings, and look at him. So
Exactly.
Well, and I'm a
and
bit of
I've
a
had more
miser
beers
with
than
a
Ken
not
Jennings.
very-
I will say that now.
You were saying, Vaughn?
that I'm a bit of a miser with a not very adventurous palate.
Oh.
Sorry to disappoint, Dara.
Well, it's just all the more reason for hopefully when both you and Kristen are on the Tournament of Champions, hint, hint, Jeopardy, please, I would gladly fly out to Los Angeles and I would buy each of you a drink of your choosing and make an obnoxious
Walk the
sign
dogs
to
here.
have in the audience as well.
That I would go for sure.
Okay, good. It's a date.
Yes. And we all have to go to O'Brien's for trivia.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
I did that when I was out in January, and it was just so much fun. They were so welcoming, and yeah, we had a great time.
Cool.
that is high up on my things to do in Southern California if I get the call list.
They have. I'll admit, I do have a bit of a trivia bucket list, and O'Brien's is on that bucket list. So,
Oh, definitely.
yes.
Yeah.
And we have an appreciative tweet apparently from at Jerry Shaw, getting craft beer recommendations from at Dara Librarian on the hashtag Jeopardy Live. Jeopardy plus
Somebody
beer.
watching.
Life is good. So yes, as promised, I will read the tweets out. In terms of upcoming live panels, the next scheduled one will be Monday, March 30th at 10 p.m. Eastern. I am actually going to be away from Guelph for most of the weekend, so that's why we have to push it back to Monday. I'm not here to moderate it, or at least I probably could attempt to moderate one from the train or the bus, but I'm not quite sure how well that would fly.
That's what day? The 29th?
No, Monday, March 30th at 10
Monday,
p.m.
March 30th. Okay.
Yeah, 10 Eastern, 9 Central, 7 Pacific. So we might actually have more of a luck at getting a West Coast panel out. So I'm looking forward to seeing who we might be able to get out next week. I'm almost at the point where I ask if any panelists have any other any questions for any other panelists.
I had a question for Kristen, actually.
Of course, go ahead.
Watching your last game, you looked very, shall I say, full of emotion when you finished that last game. You knew you were done, and you were congratulating, I think it was Andrea who won that game. What was going through you at the time? Like, what kind of emotion were you full of? Were you happy that it was all over, sad because it was all over, anxious because, hey, I'm going to the TOC?
Right. I was so excited that I had, won enough times that I felt I had, made a good chance of making the TOC. So I was happy and excited and relieved about that. I was sad that I wasn't going to get to go to lunch and wasn't going to get to play again because at the end of the day, playing Jeopardy is just really fun. And
Absolutely.
if nothing else, even if it were points and the cameras were off, it would still be so much fun. So I was sad that that part was over. But at the same time, I was kind of at peace because I knew as soon as I saw the category come up, okay, composers, that's probably my single weakest category. And oh, look at this music teacher standing right here.
Yeah.
And that was before I knew. Andrea told us in the post-game chat that she had heard that exact piece of information on one of the satellite radio classical stations a few days before taping.
Wow.
So, oh well, what can you do? They didn't say that on E Street Radio, so I didn't hear it. So so I was kind of at peace with it. I would rather go out on a category that I don't know than not be able to come up with something in one of my wheelhouses. So I was at peace. I felt like, I had watched so many games be taped. I had watched so many people either lose their first game or only win one game, and I felt like being sad that I didn't get even further would be, kind of rude of me, I guess.
So you pretty much checked off everything on your Jeopardy bucket list.
Exactly. Like my main goal was to try to win enough games to qualify for a Tournament of Champions, and I did that. And what more could I ask for?
Yeah.
Asking for more than that would have been kind of selfish, I think.
And speaking of the radio thing, I do believe Laura Lorson mentioned on Twitter that I think she would have traded the composers final for the Bruce Springsteen final any day of the week.
She is an amazing person. I am so glad I got to meet her. She is a great person. But I would have been happy to trade with her too.
I bet, yeah.
Okay, I am at this point. I'm going to check to see in case anyone has chosen to email in a question to the panel. Or even though I said many a time, use the hashtag Jeopardy Live Panel, but sometimes people still like the old way. But it looks like there are no further questions. Again, does anyone have any questions for any other panelists at this point?
Well, I have an observation that I'd like to share that was sort of in Jeopardy news, and I mentioned this on Twitter, but during the last couple of weeks, Keith Williams on the Final Wager published the results of a model he made to predict.
Yes. Oh my God.
To predict Elliot Yates's chances of qualifying for the eventual next Tournament of Champions. But one of the things that I thought was just freaky coincidental, Keith's model predicted there would be a 5-time champion who wins approximately $94,000.
Oh, yeah.
And the model predicted Kristen to within less than $300.
Yeah. And he came out with that after I had taped, but before it aired, and it was so hard for me not to say something like, yes, that's a great model.
Oh, I bet.
Yes, you must have spent a couple of weeks looking at that thinking, oh, that's me, but I can't tell anyone.
Exactly.
Did he say that this $94,000 winner would win the whole TLC by any chance?
That I might have to talk to him about, yeah. Can you run one where the $94,000 winner wins the whole thing? Because that would be awesome.
Now, Kristen, I have a question about what you were thinking when you went to play. You played in early January, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So by the time you played, the theoretical next Tournament of Champions was still pretty unpopulated, right?
Yes, because my first taping week was Elliot's run, and then the second taping week was when John was starting.
Oh, so it was actually starting to look like it could begin filling up at the time you were playing. I guess, the production people knew that between John and you, there were a lot of, 1 and 2 and 3 game winners.
Mm-hmm.
Was that weighing on your mind at all, thinking that, as you were taping, people were winning 4 and 5 games?
Not really. Like, I was trying to get any information that I could. Like, I knew I probably wouldn't get a lot of answers if I asked people in production, but Jose Garriga, who was the returning champion, during the first tape day that I didn't actually end up taping, like, I went and sat next to him and I was like, so, were there any big winners your week? And he just kind of looked at me like, what are you talking about, crazy lady? Why do you care? No, and he said there hadn't been. He said that he had defeated somebody who won 1 game. So I was, I figured between that, there probably wasn't going to be a huge space for a lot of people to have gone on a run, because his game aired the last week of February. So I tried to get the info that I could, but
they're very coy.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And after I played, I tried to get information out of Elliot. He wouldn't divulge either.
No.
It
Oh,
prepares you. It prepares you, I guess, for when you have friends and relatives asking you how you did later.
Yes, right.
oh, Kristen, has Keith asked you about a color scheme yet?
Yes, he did, and it looks like it's going to be teal. Surprise!
What? That was going to be my big question.
Yeah.
Nobody saw that coming, right? Yeah.
Kristen, that was actually going to be my question for you. I wanted you to tell me about your fashion choices. What is your your tie with teal?
I know that it's a really good color for me. It brings out like the red in my hair because blue and orange are complementary, so it makes my hair look redder. And yeah, and I went out there like day to day. I don't necessarily wear a lot of bright colors, but I figured, being on TV, that's a happy thing, that's a joyous thing. So I didn't want to wear like black and gray on TV or beige or like kind of duller colors like that. I wanted to wear bright colors to like kind of convey that I was happy. And yeah, so I went with colors that tend to look good on me, and I happened to find a lot of teal stuff, and
Cool.
yeah, so that's what I chose. Hmm.
And I also wanted to know, I guess this would be a question for both you and Vaughn, in anticipation, hopefully, of both of you making the Tournament of Champion, and both of you kind of let slip, certain categories that maybe you wish you were better at, like you just were talking about numbers and composers.
Yeah.
I'm wondering what your study strategy is now, like post-regular Jeopardy in anticipation of the TOC. How are you going to get prepared for the Tournament of Champions?
Roger Craig had been helping me. He was in Justin's Tournament of Champions, and he had been helping me, and I think I'm going to continue working with him.
That's great.
Yep.
And Vaughn?
I'm just going to wing it.
That's not surprising.
Well, from what I've heard from other TOC winners, that's what they actually say. It's like, I won 5, 6, 7, whatever games doing the method that I have been. Why should I change that up for the TOC?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Makes
and I'm
sense.
not, so far at least, I continue to study some. I'm not changing anything up very much from what I did to prepare to go on Jeopardy. If I don't study, I forget the stuff that I crammed in. But I'm a little freaked about the possibility of a Tournament of Champions, really, just because the last tournament I thought was so freaking hard.
Yeah, they are harder.
Well, the last tournament also had a 12-day winner and a 20-day winner in it. So.
Well, and it would be an interesting thing if that were to happen for next time too, because if you take out 32 days for 2 people, who the heck else is going to be in there? I mean, there just aren't a whole lot of. I mean, I guess they can push it back farther, but there aren't a lot of days.
Oh, that's true.
And we're in like one of the this year is going to be one that only probably has like 1 college champion. Like the last one had 2, and it seems like those go back and forth whether there's 1 or 2 college champions.
Right.
But
Well,
they may also go back and forth between 1 and 2 teachers champions as well. So.
Oh. 6-1.
Yeah. That's a good point.
so to answer your question, Dara, I'm not studying with Roger Craig, so.
So in a few months, we'll see which strategy is better.
Well, that's why I'm asking. I'm going to compare after I've seen the Tournament of Champions, see how that all shakes out.
Even though I was on the team of liking your final sweater, there were a lot of people who thought you had killed the Cookie Monster.
Killed Cookie Monster,
No
right?
names, no names, no names, no names.
No names, yeah. It was, I've always liked fuzzy sweaters. It was warm, it was a bright color, and when people go on Jeopardy, they can wear whatever they want. And I look forward to seeing some of the choices of people who are presumably, no one here, but people on Twitter who are presumably going to ace the online test and never ever go in the red and never ever wear anything, beloved by everybody. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how all those people do.
Speaking of
Oh
which,
boy.
the online test registration begins next Monday, March 30th at Jeopardy.com. We actually have a couple more comments from Twitter, both from @JerryShaw. Once again, first up, Andy and Vaughn should have a beard off on the Jeopardy live panel.
Nice.
Yeah, well, since they didn't have one on the teachers' tournament, as it turned out.
Oh yeah, that was a disappointment. Those were two epic beards.
There,
Yes, they
there
were.
was some remarkable facial hair in the teachers' tournament.
Mm-hmm.
And also, teal sweaters, they're a must.
Yes, I totally agree. But you guys knew that.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
Well,
so...
and I do know that should he qualify, Elliot Yates promised that if he gets to the Tournament of Champions, I believe he said, my sweater game will be fierce.
He says he did that big Twitter quote.
That's even
It's
better.
going to be on
Sweater
point.
off.
Yes.
A sweater off. That's what we will have.
Yes, yes, I suppose at JC Sweaters we'll be looking forward to that one. And
Yes.
Yeah.
yes. I asked him at one point. I believe he's from Ohio, actually. So not a former contestant at all. Just somebody who liked Julia's sweaters, and apparently, still the thing is you've got to win 18 to
rebrand.
rebrand. I don't.
Oh, missed it by that much.
Okay, so at this point, I think we had a good discussion tonight for sure. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to say or say about themselves, or some stuff they're up to over the next little while, if they'd like?
Just looking forward to the next one.
Okay. Okay, so yes, the next live panel is scheduled for March the 30th at 10 p.m. Eastern. That's 9 Central, 7 Pacific. And I'd like to thank all of our panelists. Once again, congratulations on your 5 wins, Kristen. Thanks for joining us as well, Vaughn. I still worry that the powers that be are going to be like, why do you always have Kristen and Vaughn on the on these interviews together? And
it must be harder for them in the social media age to really keep everybody apart and all that. I think they've kind of given up. At least if I was TPTB, I would kind of given up on that. Do the best you can.
Yeah.
It's changed so much from when Justin was on. When Justin was on, they had all these strict rules, like you cannot tell anybody until right before your air date. Don't post about it on social media. And then when I got the call, they send out, social media guidelines now.
Yeah, that's a complete 180, yeah.
I posted like, oh, I'm going to be a contestant, and Justin like almost passed out. He's like, are you sure you're not allowed to post that? No, it's okay. They tell you what to say now.
I think maybe the first rules were written by Alex. You know how much he likes social media and Facebook.
Right.
Well, that's good to know that they have social media guidelines now. Thanks again to Dara, and I'm sure the viewers much appreciated the great craft beer recommendations. And another comment from @Jerry Shaw: J. Elliot Yates versus K. Sauceville. That will be a sweater off for the ages. Can't wait for the TOC. And thanks to David. Also, I guess thanks to Jerry for all of the for all of the comments in. That made for some interesting discussion for sure. And yes, it would be nice if I could make if my own beard could get on Jeopardy at some point. But hey, online test registration next week. So crossing my fingers that this ends up well for me. Once again, I am Andy Saunders for the JeopardyFan.com. This is #Jeopardy Live Panel. Thank you all for tuning in, and have a great night.